are talking The Unseen, and this is directed by Vincent Shade, which I believe is his feature directorial debut, written by Jennifer Goodman and stars RJ Mitte, who you may know from Breaking Bad, where he played Walt Jr., and Rebecca Kennedy, who you may know from the movie Two Witches. So this is kind of a mystery, horror, whodunit, thriller movie. It focuses on RJ Mite's character, who is at the beginning of the movie, kind of a law student just about to kind of graduate. And he seems to have come from somewhat of a kind of quite hard family. The father is particularly kind of hard on him, trying to kind of push him to do well in his exams and kind of, apply for certain law firms and things like this. And he ends up kind of getting a job, a kind of starting job at this particular kind of law firm, but it's not the one that his father wanted him to go for. But all the time he seems to be having these kind of visions of something, or is there something kind of supernatural happening? There seems to be, various kind of nightmares. There seems to be paranormal phenomena that's kind of going around. There seems to be also someone killing people, slasher style. Now, what will happen? You'll have to watch the movie and find out. So, does that plot sound convoluted? Yes, it does, and we'll come on to that. But can we say anything that works in this movie? It's a low-budget movie, and I think the intentions of this movie are to have an intriguing plot where it's kind of like, you don't quite know what's going on and it's going to take you on this journey. I can understand, you've got the writer Goodman and Shane, the director here, trying to kind of like carve this intriguing kind of mystery. So I do understand what they were trying to do. So I think the intention there is to have this kind of reveals happen through the movie, and you find out character motivations and what's kind of going on and who's involved and things like this, peppered through the movie. So the kind of the seed of the idea is probably solid. It's the execution that isn't. But yeah, so there's the seed of a kind of a reasonable idea here. And you never quite know what you're watching to a certain degree, which doesn't sound like necessarily a good thing, and in some ways it isn't. But you're kind of watching this kind of like young person kind of drama. It has all these kind of elements into it, so you do end up going on this kind of sort of a little bit of a kind of a journey. Let's just say when this kind of like supernatural force may be revealed, there's some interesting things I think that they may do with it. I quite like the father in the role. He's a very unlikable character, but I thought the actor did a pretty good job here of making, a quite a despicable kind of like character to some degree that you kind of like, oh yeah, his trouble's played relatively kind of well. That I sort of quite liked. And, that's kind of all I can really say. Unfortunately for this film, the execution of it is so poorly handled. The movie is a convoluted mess of a film. Like I said, you can kind of see the where the story is trying to go, but the way it's kind of like told on screen, the way it's edited, the story reveals that we're introduced to kind of characters and sequences. We don't really know what we're watching. There's no clear indication of what's actually kind of going on until right towards kind of the end of the movie. So you have a complete kind of disconnect. Now, when we see the kind of the film, without spoiling anything, as we go through the film, we see, there seems to be someone killing someone. There seems to be this kind of like supernatural element, something like possession. We see people kind of like get their eyes whited out. They seem to be under the control of something, other kind of paranormal phenomena. But we don't know where it's come from. We don't know what's kind of like what's caused this. What's it got to do with this guy? It, like I said, it kind of ends up kind of being revealed towards the end, but where you're watching it for the bulk of the film, you just don't know what you're watching. And I understand the intention here is to have a kind of a mystery and reveals, but I think that you need to have some setup. You can't just go, something's happening, but we're not going to tell you what it is until towards the end. And even once you watch the film as a whole, I still don't kind of, you know, it's still a little bit incoherent, to be honest. It's not helped by some kind of like really bad transitions into kind of characters and flashbacks and stuff, and it's just like, it's just a poorly handled film on a narrative level. However, it's also not helped by some quite poor acting performances. There's one or two actors here I think do an okay job, but there's a good, I would say the majority of actors here, unfortunately, are quite weak, and some of them are actually quite bad performances. So we have a kind of a confused and incoherent kind of plot. We have kind of like bad kind of acting. We have some dodgy editing. It doesn't make for enthralling viewing, and when it's all said and done, when stuff is revealed, I don't know if it was particularly kind of satisfying. So unfortunately, this film, I think, needed to have a little bit more of an experienced hand behind it. Like I said, I think there may have been a way to tell this story in a more kind of like interesting way, but I think that the lack of experience, to be honest with you, I mean, I guess everyone's got to start somewhere, but you know, when you're watching this film, you don't care that this is the director's first film. You don't care he's not really pushing his actors to make a kind of a particularly kind of strong performance. We don't really care that the you know, oh, you know, it's his first film, so the story elements are kind of like doesn't really make sense. We just want to watch a film that we enjoy and we get engaged in, and that isn't the film that we get with this one. It's just a little bit of a poorly constructed film, unfortunately, in kind of many levels. Even some of the kind of the technical elements here, I just don't feel really kind of like it was that well solidly filmed. It just seemed to be a little bit kind of slapdash in regards to its kind of like cinematography and things like this. You know, effects wise, it's minimal. But when we do see effects, I don't know if it was all that brilliant, to be honest. You know, it's a low budget film. I'm not too worried about the VFX, to be fair. But yeah, ultimately, it's a very, very unsatisfying film, and I think this needed to have a producer. And I've said this a few times on low budget indie produced, you know, films that would say, no, I've watched the film back, it doesn't kind of like flow particularly well, it needs more context, you need to have more setup, you need to have some idea about what's going on. You can't just say paranormal stuff is happening, there's a slasher, we don't know how any of it's connected. We don't know what it's got to do with this guy. We're not going to give you any answers until towards the end because you're just not engaged. So for me, this is a bit of a weak film, to be honest. So it's a 3 out of 10 for me. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I shall look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.